Good day. So today I thought I'd do something a little bit different and just show something that I've been messing about with in the spare time that I'm quite enjoying. And it's all to do with my little mini home lab that I've got at the moment, which is actually just a Minis Forum MS01 workstation, which I got for my birthday combined with Christmas last year. And when we got it, it was a lot cheaper than this 799 back in October. The AI revolution, as we might call it, has just wrecked that kind of thing. But yeah, but the specs are basically this. It's a 12th gen, and it has 32 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte SSD. However, I've also added in an extra 1 terabyte that I had spare as such, just nicked it from something else. So I've got one of those and I've been messing about with it for ages. Well, since last October. Trying all kinds of things from your bog standard Debian 13 install, which was nice, did the job. Through things like XCPNG, Proxmox, and TrueNAS. And I used TrueNAS for quite a while. I really enjoyed that. It was good stuff. Had a little problem with it at some point, I think, and thought, all right, I'll give Proxmox a go. And then switched to Proxmox for quite a while, up until basically last week, I think it was, when I was just like, it's just not working for me. It's not quite the UI, and the way of interacting with it with the CLI was just awkward. I wanted to get back to something that I knew a little bit better, and I'd used a few times before, but has also moved on quite considerably. And that is what used to be called LXD, and well, technically there still is LXD, but really everyone's enthusiastic about Incus, and in particular Incus OS, which is basically a mechanism for, on a very lightweight operating system that you can install on, well, you can install it on a VM, but obviously I'm doing it bare bones on my machine. It basically just runs Incus, which allows you to run VMs and LXD containers, and now OCI containers, Docker ones, as long as they're fairly simple, and manage them really nicely. So I decided to give that a go, and after a few troubles with the Minis Forums BIOS, which was painful, it's a terrible BIOS, I did manage to get it installed properly. Incus OS is very secure. You do need to make sure that you set it up with the right keys and this kind of stuff. I ended up keeping this sort of TPM stuff, but I did have to disable the secure boot stuff. I just couldn't get that to work with the Minis Forum 01. I might have another go at some point in the future, but I did have to do that. There's a nice website here that gives you the basics of what Incus OS is, and then there's great documentation that comes off of that. Incus itself, again, nice website, gives you the skinny, and then you can go off and read all the documentation and stuff. But basically, containers, virtual machines, lots of scalability things that you can do, and it's all basically API driven, but it does also have a UI, and here you can see I've got like one little instance going on here, but we'll come back to that later. But the thing is with Incus OS, it's, you stand up various containers or VMs, but I wanted to be running Docker. So in this case, as you can see, I've got a VM, so that makes the security for Docker easier to handle. You don't need to do some sort of configuration for nested VMs and security and stuff. It just works because you just run in whatever you like. And in this case, I'm running Debian 13, bare bones, sort of. It's very lightweight cloud image, but I wanted something that I could mess about with, sort of clustering. That's what I wanted to play with. So after messing about with a few bits and bobs, I ended up finding Uncloud, which kind of ticks all the boxes for me. It's still early doors. There's still a few little bits and bobs missing that I will definitely want to have it if I were to be using it in production. But for me, where I'm just messing about with things in my home lab, it's fine at the moment, and I'm learning lots with it. So as you can see, it's self-host and scale web apps without the complexity. It's a bit like, and it is inspired, if you read the documentation stuff, by Kamal, which I'm no longer using for reasons. But you can basically use it to set up a cluster of Docker hosts, but not in a swarm. It's its own thing. It has a WireGuard mesh network, sort of joining them all together privately, and then has a little agent on each of the hosts to do the actual management side of things. Very lightweight by the looks of things. And of course, because it's not using Docker Swarm, and it has this nice WireGuard mesh, you can run it anywhere. So as like this example here, you've got like a DigitalOcean, a Hetzner, and then your own private network in your own home, all joined together, and you can use, you know, a public DNS to hit one of those public machines, but route all the traffic back to your private home lab, which is exactly what I'm doing. So what I have is I have a very small DigitalOcean Droplet, only $4 a month, and that basically has nothing on it. It basically has Uncloud and the Caddy, which is the reverse proxy it uses. I love Caddy. It's a Go-based web server, and proxy. It can do all the TLS certificate stuff with Let's Encrypt and all that kind of stuff. Sorts all that out for you automatically and keeps it all up to date, renewing them and all that kind of stuff. I've used it a bunch before on different projects. I think I even had it. I think I built a Juju. Yeah, I did. A Juju provider for it, I think. But anyway, that was in another life. And it just does the job. Great thing. So I have that. I basically have this, and then calling back to that VM that you just saw that's running on Incus. So I thought I would just give a quick demo of what it would be like to add another app. So at the moment I've got the two. I've got public apps 00, as I called it, is my sort of VM in the cloud, which has basically, it's just an ingress point to stuff in the back end, where I have my app 001 that is then running stuff. What I have running and things like uptime-kuma, so that's showing all my stuff. And as you can see, it's checking all my little private bits here, concourse, Dozzle, and then itself, as well as some of my public websites. This is all just stuff I've just set up recently. And then we have Dozzle, which is a very lightweight way of just viewing what containers you have, Docker containers you have running. So here you can see that it's connected up to both the DigitalOcean Droplet and my Incus VM, and you can see it shows all the Docker containers that are running. This was just kind of a little way of me testing the connectivity of everything, really. And you can see here it's got this little symbol which looks a bit like a satellite. That's because I set it up so that we have Dozzle, the container, is running, but not connected to Docker itself, because you can set it up so that it can read and do all the checking of what Docker is doing by exposing the Docker socket. But didn't do that. Instead, it's that you have the container running and it's just listening to a couple of agents, because you can run Dozzle in very lightweight agents and put them in all your hosts, and then it just reports back. Well, basically Dozzle goes and asks them, really, hey, what's going on? And you can see it gives you all the information, tells you what's running, and little bits of stats about the host as well. It's very nice, very lightweight, does a job. And you can go and you can look at sort of the logs for everything as well. So here's all the caddy logs here, seeing all the stuff that's going on. But not here to show that, maybe another day. And then I have Incus, obviously you just saw. It has a web UI that's running, but I'll probably not be using that much. I use the CLI. And then I've got my old Concourse. I like Concourse. And this is running on my Incus machine as such. It has the database there, and it does have the container as well that runs the actual app. And I have run it in both places, but I downgraded the DigitalOcean Droplet to keep it as cheap as possible, and I'm going to just have all my actual workhorse stuff in the back end. So that's running on my little Minisforum machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just quickly show you what the setup from the CLI point of view. And then I think what I'll do is I'll set up another machine and show how to connect Dozzle to it as well. So it's got an extra machine in the cluster, and we'll see how that goes. So here we are in my little apps repo where I'm doing all my stuff. Ignore the Ansible and archive. They are things that I've been playing with. I've been doing some Ansible stuff. That's one of the things I was messing about with against like Proxmox and stuff, to try and automate some of the deployments. But it's complicated, and I was yearning for something a little bit more Kamau-like, but not really wanting to use Kamau. Hence Uncloud, which is great stuff. So what do we have? If I do Incus OS, you can see my machine, and I only have a few things running on that. As you can see, it's but if I look at Incus network, you can see that I did have to set up this EMP87S physical network. Now that was so that I could get automatic IP addresses from my home router. So it's basically it's exposing the physical network to the container. So I ran through a guide for that, which is in the docs. I should probably go find that actually. Where was that? I think Let's go find it. It was in a tutorial. Don't know where that was. Let's have a quick look. Try that. It might have been here. No. There's guides. It was definitely in a guide. Huh. Am I in the wrong place? Maybe. Did I have it in work in progress? Oh, I know where I'll have it. I will have it. There we go. Yeah, so Incus OS docs. Okay. Yeah, of course it is, because that was the problem. So the Incus OS is very locked down, and by default, you're going to find it difficult to connect to the VMs and so on unless you expose it to the wider network. This is one of the ways you do it. There's a nice guide here, which it looks more complicated when you see big lumps of YAML and stuff like that. It's way easier than that because you're really just updating this to add this thing here, roles instances on one of the network interfaces that you're using. And as soon as you do that, and then just do a little bit of a, hey, I now have this network and I'm going to use it all the time. It just works. Worth looking at that guide. That's the UI URL. So anyway, let's get rid of some of these tabs and that whiteness. It's killing my eyes. So we have that machine there. And now for Uncloud, if I do Uncloud ls, you can see the services. So we have Caddy, the concourse, and it's DB. We have Dozzle, and then we have 2 agents running, and then uptime-kuma. And you can see that for the public things, they have URLs. I'm providing a public endpoint, my apps.ianmjones.com. But Uncloud also comes with an automatic sort of randomly generated at first uncloud.dev, which automatically, and you can decide not to use that if you want, but you can see that for anything that is, well, it'd be easy to see if I do machine ls. You can see that on my app 000, which is the DigitalOcean Droplet, I do have a public IP address, and you will see that anything that's only on apps 01, it doesn't have an endpoint. And then the Dozzle agents, I've obvious't not exposed their ports either. Actually, that's a lie, I'm telling you there. Concourse DB and the Dozzle agents, I do not expose the do not expose the ports, therefore they don't have any endpoints at all. It's only because what I'm saying is on the one replica here, we have the endpoint sort of exposed through the droplet, but I'm not making a lot of sense there. It'll be easier to understand in a minute. And then you see, if I do PS, you can see all the actual containers themselves. You can see where they are. So you can see Caddy is running on both the droplet and the local VM in my private network. and then they can see each other. They're punched through the hole. Most stuff is just running on my local network, so Concourse and Dozzle. There's one agent that I'm doing globally. I'm doing Dozzle agents as a global service, so they go to each of the servers. So we've got one each on the Droplet and local, and then uptime-kuma. Again, I'm just scaling as just one container at the moment, and that's just sitting on my local VM. And with Uncloud, because it's all Docker-based, you can also see all the images as well. It's got a nice little UI there, and shows you where they've been pulled down to and whether they're in use. And in this case, they're all in use, and you can see all their pulls, and that will change as over time. You'll get different versions, and you can manage them. So what I want to do is, let's clear this up. So at the moment, we have one machine here, and in Uncloud, we have set up so that we are using that one machine plus the Docker image, the DigitalOcean VM. What I want to do is create a new Incus machine VM, and then join that to the cloud, and set it up so that it has Dozzle on it, and that should show how everything sort of hooks together. So here we go. I have in my repo this instance config. And this is a little piece that I use. It's a cloud init, basically, piece of YAML. And I've edited it, as you can see by the exclamation mark in my thing here, so that, actually I'll do it back. So, this is all it is. And you can see I have it set up now so that it's 4 CPUs, and 4 GB of memory is the limit. On that AppSwitch one, I did do 8 GB. It was my first one, but I don't think I need so much of that for these extra ones. I'm probably not going to run quite so much like the big Postgres database and that kind of stuff. And I just want to conserve a little bit of resources. So that's sort of some basic config for the VM that I want to use each time I bring up a VM. Don't have to do that. It will do basically it has user profile by default, and that has all these things like, I think it does like 1 GB as the default memory, and don't know how many CPUs, can't remember, probably 1. But I wanted to set that to 4 and 4. And then I am doing a cloud init, which means that it's adding this thing automatically to the base VM, so that it sort of configures it and creates some stuff on the first bring up. So I have to do the Incus creation of the VM in 2 steps, so that it says, oh, okay, here we are, we've got cloud in it, and then I start, instead of just doing the usual Incus launch and then just give it the image and off you go. I'm going to have to do Incus init and then Incus start, because I want to set my own user up automatically, and I also want a couple of packages in there so that Uncloud can be installed properly when I do the addition of it to the machine. So it says, okay, package upgrade true. So the first time it comes up, it's going to do a little basically an update and upgrade, and then it's going to install curl and an SSH server so that we can actually communicate with it without doing an Incus shell, getting in there and then setting everything up manually. And then I'm just adding myself as a user, with automatic sudo, so that I don't have to worry about passwords and stuff whenever I run anything through the API, Uncloud API. And then I've got an SSH authorized key, which is the only way that I can log in is by it having my key, the public key. As you can see, I've like sort of masked that just there. It doesn't really matter if you saw my public key. You don't see my private key. That's the thing that you need. But just in case there's like some means of doing a sort of man in the middle attack by getting my public key and get me to log in somewhere that I shouldn't, decided not to show my public key there. We have then a couple of devices. We have the device for the larger disk. I think by default it does like 10 gigabytes in the profile. Again, I could actually just change the profile, but here I'm wanting to do this one thing for the way I set up my VMs. So here I am basically for the root disk, I'm just saying it's a 100 gigabyte disk. It doesn't use that automatically, it grows and all that kind of stuff, but that's going to be how I set up the VM. So I am now going to do a git restore that and try not to show that again because now I've got my public key. But let's create an Incus VM. So I am going to use a twin and we will do Incus init, and I'm going to call this apps002, and it's going to be using the Debian 13 cloud image. Cloud is important so that it can do the cloud init based on what I'm passing in as a config. And off it goes. It will take a few seconds. So it needs to put it all together. Probably has to download it again. It's probably getting an updated image by now, I would have thought. And my network's not particularly fast anyway. But we'll see. That's taking a little while. A little bit longer than I expected. Oh, there we go. Right. And so if I do an Incus OS again, we now have apps02, and it's stopped. Now if I do an Incus start, oops, let's tell it which one to start. Right, Incus start apps. My fingers are not working today. Right, Incus LS, there we go, and it's up and running. And just give it a few seconds to get a network address. Because, of course, on the first go, it's also going to have to do a little upgrade. It's going to have to do the install of curl and OpenSSH. So let's see. Still not quite up and running yet. It's always a little bit slow on the first go while it's doing all that stuff. But if you ever need to reboot it and so on, it's super quick. You can hardly tell it's done. I've been a little bit confused sometimes and thinking that, oh, did it actually come up? Did it reboot? Everything is a bit slow today. This is way slower than I expected. Interesting. Hasn't got a network yet. Oh, of course it hasn't. I need to attach it. Good. Or do I? Huh. Did I have to do that last time? I think there's something wrong with that. Something interesting has just happened there. Wonder why. Oh look, it does think it's getting it. Okay, let's do a little debug. Right, one little check. Again, need to say where I'm going. Apps 02. That is interesting. It's not happy. What did I do? It's the first time I've had a problem with this, actually. I wonder what I did. Interesting. It's all gone a bit pear-shaped, isn't it? This is the joys of doing home labbing and messing about with all these complicated things. Okay, well, it's not even going to restart. Let's refresh this and see what's going on. So now it knows it's restarting. It's trying to do it. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to cancel that. Well, I'm now stuck with that one, aren't I? Well, it's all gone a bit pear-shaped. That's going to just show how easy everything is. I guess nothing is ever easy. So, can I stop it? Now that it's in the middle of stuff, I bet I can't. Just going to double check those docs to see whether I needed to do stuff. I don't think I did. So get the config, change the config, Create to manage network using the interface, blah blah blah. Did that. Direct connect to this. Yeah, and I've got it default. So it should be fine. And we did see it. It's just like in the docs I use this ENP this 0, but my interface isn't called that. So I am okay. But somehow I now have a very broken app. It's 2. Right, docs time. Well, I could reboot the whole machine. What could we do? Can we force kill it? Yeah, okay. Let's do that. So Incus stop apps 02 force. Still not happy. It's interesting, my machine I think is making a bit of noise. I don't think it's happy with what happened. There's something weird going on with that. For whatever reason, that VM did not come up well. Which is, oh, now it's got it. Weird. Okay, let's see if it's actually alive and doing the right thing. But first I'll do an Incus restart just in case. Okay, that was a lot better. I don't know what was going on there. Way quicker. So, and it's back. And if I do an Incus shell, just so that I don't, I'm just going to try this first. Why did I put a dash in there? Right, Incus shell 02. Did it get curl? It did. Is sh running? Oops. Yeah, the SSHD server's running, so that should be okay. So I should be able to just shell it, SSH into it. So in, oh, what was, I think it was it 11? Yeah. So I should be able to just get in as myself. Okay, that's fine. Okay. It's not been doing all that. Okay, all right, so it is up and running. Okay, don't know what happened there. But anyway, we now have the two ports. So we have an apps 02, and I want to join that to the cloud. So at the moment, we have the 2, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to UC machine add instead of init. And it's going to be in at 10.1.0.11. Actually, let's check the docs for this because I think I need to make sure I get this right. Yeah, and it's public IP none. So this machine, I don't want it to even try to be on the public, have a public DNS setting. It's private, but it is part of the mesh network, so it can have resources there and whatnot. But I don't want it to try and be part of the sort of domain. So everything else I think, name as well. I want to make sure it has a name. Otherwise, it gets this automatic name like machine dash and then like 4 random characters, 4 or 5, can't remember. So we'll do that. Okay. So you see machine ls. That's what we've got at the moment. I'm going to do UC machine add in at 10.1.0.11. I want the name to be apps02, and I want public IP none. Let's see how that goes. So this is now going to SSH in. It's going to install Uncloud, and it's also then going to completely install Docker for me automatically, just like Kamal does. And then it's going to add in Caddy and set it up so that it's like a reverse proxy. It doesn't take too long. So yeah, do we want to run the Caddy container? Yes. It's done all that stuff now. It's added in Docker and all this kind of stuff. Oh, and it has this corrosion thing going on, which just helps with all the data handling in the background. So now, if I do a UC machine ls, you can see we now have apps02. It's got its own address in the 10.210 range, and then has these sort of private WireGuard endpoints and a machine ID, which is going to be handy later. So I'm just going to grab that. I've been needing that for Dozzle. And if we do UCLS, we should see that we now have 3 caddies in there. So caddy is a global mode container, so we get one on every single machine as such. So that's all that's there. Otherwise, if we look at UCPS, you can see we have app02 there for the caddy, but there's no other version of app02 because all it's got is caddy running on there. And I guess if we look at the images, we'll also see that it's popped into there as well. There, on this line here, we've got caddy, and you can see that it's got the same hatches, exactly the same version, which is great. So now we want to do, let's actually use it for something. So in Dozzle, we currently have just app00 and app01, and I want to add an agent for apps02. So let's do that. So if I go into, if you can see here, I've just got subdirectories for each of the apps that I use at the moment. And if I go into Dozzle, he says, All I have is this compose.yaml and then a data. Now that data, that has something that I can't show you the contents of, but it's just a little YAML file which creates my user for Dozzle. And then it has, I guess I could show you, but I don't want to, but in there it does have like an encrypted password. So it's fine, it's secure, but it's very simple. Look at the Dozzle docs if you're interested. It's very simple little bit. It says, yeah, here's my username and password basically. And then you need that to log into Dozzle on the front end. Nice little way to just secure it, just in case, because it is on the public endpoint at the moment. But the compose file that I'm going to use is just this. So I've got two services in here. One is the Dozzle UI, basically, container, which we're not so bothered about just now, but it is the basic thing. So it's got an image that is going to be pulled in from Docker Hub. I've set it up with a pull policy of always, so that every time I do a deployment of this compose file, it's always going to check to see if it's got the latest version. I want to make sure that because I've got these two different things that work so closely together, I want to make sure that they have the same version, because we've got the Dozzle container and then another version of the same container, but as an agent, because it runs in a particular mode. I want to make sure they're all matched up and got the same version no matter what. So each time I deploy this, every machine and every container is going to get a new version if it exists. It's just going to be upgraded. I just want to make sure that I did see some weirdness when I had a slight difference in versions. So because the Dozzle is where we have the user stuff, I've got a config set up for that. So we have configs. Source is the user data config, which is down here in the bottom here, which is just pointing to that file that I wouldn't show you. And then the target is just in the container /data users.yaml. And Dozzle knows how to find that. That's in the docs, says put it here and I'll find it. It can also be YML, but I prefer YAML. It says it will do either. Then we have exports on here. Now this is an Uncloud specific thing. This is saying, this is my way of telling, this is the way you tell Uncloud what to expose as a port to the wider world and this kind of stuff. So here you can see, this is my endpoint, Dozzle, Dozzle apps, enmjones.com. I'm exposing from the container 8080, and then this /https is what I am exposing it as. I think it's a bit weird that I would have thought it'd be like that /https, but anyway, it does the job. Anyway, that means that it's going to get secured. It's going to get its own certificate. So Caddy, once it uses this, it then goes and requests from Let's Encrypt a certificate for dozzle.apps.enmjones.com. This particular container, which is just as UI and app, I'm only running on the apps01 VM. So that's there in my private little network in the little machine that you can't see, it's just sitting over there on my desk. And it's not on the DigitalOcean Droplet, but because it's all WireGuard up, it just comes through, gets the information and then back. And then environment. A couple of things you can set up. You can do actions, so you can do stop, start and restart. I don't really want to do that. I don't really want to mess about with that with Uncloud. Might look at it at some point to see if it has any problems, but I've not enabled that. And then Dozzle enable shell. You can also like shell into each of the containers if you want to enable that. Not bothered about that either. I can do all that through just the command line. I'm happy with that. And then we have Dozzle auth provider simple. So that's how I'm setting up this user stuff here. And And then we have this stuff here, Dozzle remote agent. This is how you tell the container where to go get all the information about the containers from. And as you can see, we've got a couple of different things here. We have basically the two machines. And then I'll add in a third one in a sec. And then we have the Dozzle agent. So here it's basically the same thing, pull policy, but it just has this extra command agent here, which is used to say, okay, I am running now as an agent. And then we have the volumes here. This is the important part for the agent. And you could use this just up in the Dozzle container if you didn't want to use an agent. This is connecting to the Docker socket so that it can read what's going on and get information about all the containers and stuff like that. And then another important thing for Uncloud is I'm saying I'm deploying this in global mode. So not just on one machine or any random machine if you don't have X machines. I'm doing it in global mode instead. So every machine has an agent on it. And that's that. So now I've probably lost all the stuff for this. Let's grab that machine name again. So, and then I'm going to add that to this. So this new machine has this long ID here, which is a random thing. And I'm just going to update this compose file to add in this new machine. So this is that. So .m .dozzle agent on port 7007, which is the standard port for Dozzle. So that should set up nice internal DNS to get that working. So if I do that, and now all I need to do, if I do use CNS again, you can see at the moment the Dozzle agent is global and it's got 2 replicas at the moment. I'm going to just do a UC deploy. And you can see what it's going to do. So for the agent, it's going to make sure that apps 0 and 1 and now 2 are run in the container. And whenever it does it, it sets up the new container and then removes the old. So you have basically a 0 downtime deployment. So you can see that for 0 and 1, where we already have it deployed, it's going to bring up a new version, make sure it's working, and then remove the old version of the container. And then on Dozzle itself, it's just going to do that as well. It's just going to make sure that it's up and running. So I'll say yes, and it goes off and does the stuff. On app 02, it will need to actually pull the container down, which is luckily not too big. And then it should be done. So if I now look again at what we've got up and running, we now have 3 Dozzle agents. And so if I do UC PS, you can see them up and running. Here they are. They've all been up a few seconds. And you can see them on 0, 02, and 01. And if I go here and refresh the page, we now have apps 02 and all the containers here. And if I go to here, I can now drill down and see these things here. Here's the 2 containers. I can have a look at Dozzle agent itself, see what it says. And here we are with the caddy. That's the light one, and that's the big one there. And you can also just like drill down through here as well. But there you go, and you can see that it's noticing that it's got 4 CPUs and the 4 gigs, and basically a RAM as well. And that's a global deployment. I think that's probably enough, really, isn't it? And everything is being routed through a public IP. And Incus is happy now. Had a bit of a blip on that bring up. Don't know what happened there. Maybe I was impatient, but hey ho, it worked. So I think that's a good point to wrap up. Really enjoying using Incus OS, which runs Incus, so I can have different VMs and containers. I've had a few on there. I cleaned it all out before this. I've had all kinds of different variations of containers and VMs while I've been messing about with different operating systems and stuff. It works really well. So hence I was a little bit surprised with that little blip when I was bringing up app 02 there. And then Uncloud, great, really good stuff. Looking forward to seeing how it progresses. It seems to be working very well for me. The one thing that's probably missing most at the moment is the proper way of doing secrets. It would be nice to have maybe like a automatic encryption of some files and things. That would be good, so that I didn't have to not put things in repos and stuff like that. So I've got like .env files that are just not checked in and that kind of stuff, but that's the way you do things. So that's me. Thanks for watching. I'm probably not going to be doing too many live coding things in the future, but I'll maybe talk about that another time. It's just not working for me, but I'll maybe do a little channel update video or something about that. But I want to get back to doing more Gleam. But yeah, we'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching. Till next time, take care. Bye.